Well, I'm back. Happy Thursday to you. Now, about this video. A lot of this video is going to be based on feedback I got from my very last video, the one I uploaded a week ago today, particularly the last roughly 15 minutes. When I went into like Rambo mode. If you remember, about roughly the last 15 minutes of my very last video, I went into angry rant mode, or what I like to call Rambo mode. And I made the strong statement. I said, a lot of you guys out there are always trying to suggest that if you exhibit mode 1 behavior, it's going to lead to Me Too allegations. But I said, the reality is, issue mode 2 and mode 3 motherfuckers that created the Me Too movement era. I said issue all these M's, I'm getting tongue tied. Issue mode 2 and mode 3 guys. And I'd even add on mode 4 guys that have created the Me Too movement. And I had at least a handful of guys in the last week try to give me at least a little bit of pushback on that, mainly in regards to mode 2. I didn't really have any guys disagree with me on mode 3. In a nutshell, most of the guys agreed that mode 3 behavior, which involves, blatantly lying to women, blatantly misleading women, and blatantly emotionally manipulating women, toying with women's emotions. Most men agreed that, that contributes to the basis of the Me Too movement. But where guys disagreed was more so in respect to mode 2. I had at least 4 or 5 guys that wrote me and said, Alan, I disagree with you. I don't see how mode 2, you could say that a guy exhibiting mode 2 behavior has a high potential to attract Me Too movement allegations. I can see mode 3, and in some cases, I could even see mode 1 hardcore. That's what a few guys said. They said the 2 versions of your modes that I can see attracting Me Too allegations is either mode 3 or, in many instances, mode 1 hardcore, such as being mode 1 hardcore with a female coworker at your job. Those are 2 situations I could see a man get Me Too allegations. But they were like, they said the type of behavior I can't see attracting Me Too allegations would be standard mode 1, although a couple guys said they felt like that could lead to Me Too allegations. But most guys said they said I can see standard mode 1 not leading to Me Too allegations. I can definitely see mode 1.5 preventing you from experiencing Me Too allegations. And mode 2, they said I could see preventing Me Too allegations. So, in a nutshell, I had at minimum about 4 or 5 guys that disagreed with the assertion that mode 2, men who regularly exhibit mode 2 behavior, have contributed to the Me Too movement. Well, I disagree. And speaking of that, before I get into the depth of that, I got like 2 or 3 things I want to talk about that I heard. One of them is somewhat related and another 2 not necessarily. But as you know, sometimes while I'm doing other stuff on my computer, I'll listen to other people's podcasts or other people's live streams. And the first one involved, remember, I think it was either in my very last video or my next to last video. I think it was my very last video. I talked about how a guy accused me of mischaracterizing guys who favor indirect verbal game. He said, Alan, you tend to mischaracterize all conventional PUAs and guys who favor indirect verbal game by suggesting that they're afraid of rejection. But then this same guy turned around and said, basically, the main reason why you should use indirect verbal game as opposed to mode 1 or some other close variation of direct verbal game is because you don't want to turn a woman off. You don't want to turn a woman off. And I basically point out that's representative right there of being afraid of rejection. If you're afraid of turning a woman off, that means you're afraid of rejection. Well, I had almost the same thing happen about 2 or 3 days ago. I think it was Monday. Either Monday or Tuesday. I'm not going to say this young brother's name, but I mentioned his name on my channel before. But for now, I ain't going to mention his name. But I was listening to a young brother. He was doing a live stream. And he was talking about this Instagram model that I've heard other people talk about. I'm not really that familiar with. Her name is Brittany Renner. Brittany Renner. And first he was just talking about her, some situation she had with a professional athlete. And then he went on to start giving a lot of indirect verbal game advice. Basically, he was giving a lot of mode 2 oriented advice and a little bit of even mode 3 oriented advice. And he did the same mistake. He started off, I heard him tell guys, he said, and I'm paraphrasing a lot of his words, these weren't necessarily verbatim, but slightly paraphrasing his words. At one point he told guys, he said, if you want to be successful with women, you can't be afraid of them. You can't be intimidated by them. He said, you can't be afraid of them. You can't be intimidated by them. Now, he didn't specifically say you can't be afraid of rejection, but that's what he was implying. He said, you can't be afraid of them. You can't be intimidated by them simply because they're beautiful. He was putting a lot of emphasis on women who on most men's 1 to 10 scale are 8s, 9s, and 10s. That's what he was mainly emphasizing. He said, with those women, you can't allow yourself to be afraid of them or intimidated by, their beauty and their sex appeal. Then he went on to promote indirect verbal game. And again, these weren't his exact words, so I'm paraphrasing, but this is what he essentially said. He said, if a woman is an 8, 9, or a 10, you can't just go up to those women and just let them know right off the bat that all you want to do is fuck them. He said, that's the worst thing you could do. That's what he said. He said, that's the worst thing you could do. He said, if you do that with a woman that's an 8, 9, or 10, you're either going to experience 1 or 2 consequences. He said, you're either going to be just flat out and abruptly rejected, or secondly, you're going to put yourself in a position to be exploited and manipulated by that woman. And those were the 2 things he said would happen. He didn't use the words mode 1, but essentially that's what he was saying. He's basically saying if you mode 1 with a woman that's an 8, 9, or 10, he said that would be a mistake. He said, again, he didn't actually use the words mode 1, but essentially he was referring to mode 1. He basically said if you go up to a woman that's an 8, 9, or 10 and let her know right off the rip that all you're looking for is a few episodes of casual sex with her, he said you're either going to be abruptly and harshly rejected, or you're going to put yourself in a position to be manipulated by that woman. And he implied, without actually saying it, he implied, I did a video earlier this year. It was actually a response to the young brother, Bernard Riley. Bernard Riley one time was doing a podcast, and he made the comment that one of the problems he has with my mode 1 approach is that he feels like it has a high potential to make you look thirsty or sexually desperate. Thirsty, which is the same thing as sexually desperate. And I did a response basically destroying that argument. Well, this most recent young brother, he basically was suggesting the same thing. He said, if you go up to a woman, particularly a woman that's an 8, 9, or 10, and let her know right off the rip that all you want to do is fuck her, he said, that's going to make you look thirsty. And he said, you either going to get rejected, or you're going to put yourself in a position to be easily exploited and manipulated. And I jumped on his panel briefly, and destroyed that argument, as I have multiple times before. I don't know why people say that, man. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. I went at it with two black male dating coaches last year. I don't feel like saying their name, but y'all know who I'm talking about. As far as the second part of that, of the two potential consequences, they tried to argue that when you mow one, I just did a video. Literally, I just did. My next to last video dealt with this very thing. My next to last video dealt with this very subject. Let me reiterate emphatically for the upteenth time, man. Being upfront and straightforwardly honest with a woman about your sexual desires, interests, and intentions is not synonymous with being thirsty or sexually desperate. Those two have nothing to do with each other. Being straightforwardly honest has nothing to do with being thirsty. Here's what, to repeat it again, here's what it means to be thirsty. Thirsty is when you approach a woman and you give her the impression that you're willing to do anything to gain the opportunity to have sex with her. That's being thirsty. You can be indirect and be thirsty. Thirsty ain't got nothing to do with direct versus indirect. You can be indirect and be thirsty. For example, if you go up to a woman and have an underlying attitude like, baby, you so fine, I'll buy you whatever you want me to buy you. I'll take you to whatever restaurant you want me to take you to. I'll spend as much time with you as you want me to or need me to. Just let me get that pussy one time. I'll do whatever you want me to. See, that's thirsty. Thirsty has to do with what you're willing to do in exchange for a woman's sexual companionship. How much time you're offering to invest in exchange for a woman's sexual companionship. How much money or material possessions and gifts you're willing to exchange for a woman's sexual companionship. That's thirsty. That's thirsty. Thirsty is when you have an attitude of urgency and desperation. Urgency and desperation. That's thirsty. If you met a woman right now today that say was an 8, 9, or 10, and first you start just fawning over the fact that she was beautiful and sexy, you're like, oh, baby, you so fine, you so sexy, damn. What I have to do to hook up with you, baby? Name your favorite restaurant. I'll take you there tomorrow. Name your favorite restaurant. I'll take you there tomorrow. I just want to share your company, baby. I want to share your company. See, that's thirsty. That's thirsty. Ain't got nothing to do with being direct. Like, I give you a case in point. I'm going to bring her up for the millionth time. But the woman I used to deal with in California that I always refer to as Sharon, not her real name. If you're familiar with the former actress, Sally Richardson, her married name now is Sally Richardson Whitfield. Most guys on a 1 to 10 scale would rank her no lower than a 9. I would say particularly most black men scale. I can't speak for non-black men, but most black men have usually ranked her no less than a 9. Some guys have ranked her as high as a 9.5. Let's say her ranking on most men's 1 to 9 scale is a 9. The woman I used to mess around with named Sharon looked almost just like her. If Sally Richardson Whitfield in her heyday was a 9, I would say Sharon, the woman I used to mess around with, was no lower than an 8.7, 8.8. She was no less than 2 to 3 notches behind Sally Richardson Whitfield. She looked like she could be Sally's sister or first cousin. So whatever ranking you give Sally Richardson Whitfield, I would rank Sharon, the woman I used to mess around with, no lower than 2 or 3. So if you rank her a 9, at lowest, Sharon would be an 8.7. If you rank her, Sally Richardson, an 8.5, the woman I mess around with named Sharon would be no lower than an 8.2. So she was in that 8, 9, 10 range. She is a classic example of a woman that was in the 8, 9, 10 range. When I first met her, I told her directly that all I wanted to do was casually fuck her. For those who say you can't tell a woman who's an 8, 9, and 10, I told her straight up that all I wanted to do was casually fuck her. I didn't come up to her and say, ooh, man, what restaurant do you want me to take you to? Or how much money do you need me to spend on you? Or how many gifts? And what's interesting, that's how most of the men who did meet her come at her. She told me that when we started messing around. Most of the guys she dealt with, the first thing they did was offer to wine and dine her and offer her materialistic gifts. Some guys would tell her they wanted to marry her almost as soon, within a week or two after they met her. She said, I was the first guy, with the exception of one other guy she said she dealt with when she was in college. She said, other than a guy she dealt with briefly when she was in college, she said, I was the one of only 2 guys that approached her and didn't try to immediately fawn over her or play up to her or offer her, money or materialistic gifts. I just approached her, was basically like, I was real cocky with her. I was basically like, I know you want to share my company. I know you do. I guarantee you do. And I said, I'm going to make you one of my fuck buddies. That's what I told her. I said, I'm going to add you to my roster of fuck buddies. That is literally how I approached this woman. And most of y'all know the story from there. She told me multiple times I was really cocky. And she basically asked me, what gives you the ammunition to be this cocky? She was like, are you like some kind of rich, famous celebrity that I've just don't know about? She had actually dated some professional athletes. She had dated some entertainment industry celebrities. I was just a combination with her. When I first met her, I was a combination of cocky, verbally bold, and straightforwardly honest. And I would add in even sexually explicit to a degree. Then I gave her my number. She didn't call immediately. I think it took her like 2 or 3 weeks before she finally called me. But she called. And we started being fuck buddies. So, all that to say, this young brother who said that if a woman's an 8, 9, or 10, you can't just tell them straight up. I've done that with every woman I've ever dealt with for casual sex. And I've dealt with, I fucked, if I say so myself here, I'm going to brag a little bit. I fucked a lot of women who were at lowest a 7 and at high a 10. I've had casual sex with a lot of women who were 7, 8s, or 9s. And I would say at least probably 2 or 3 10s. Probably 2 or 3 10s. But definitely 7, 8s, and 9s. I've been in bed with a lot of women who were 7, 8s, and 9s. And with all of them, I was straight up with them. So for somebody to say you can't be straight up with a woman just because she's, exceptionally good looking and sexually sexy, that's bullshit. That's what you think. Saying, my point was, this guy was saying, if you're too straight up, you're going to get rejected. Is that not representative of fear of rejection? Is that not representative of fear of... Man, I don't give a fuck about being rejected, man. Reject me, bitch. Reject me. That's what I want if you're not interested. That's what you guys don't get about me. See, for me, if a woman's not interested in having sex with me, I want her to reject my ass. I want her to reject me. Because there's a difference between being rejected and being played. That brings me to another guy I was listening to. Another guy, it might have been the same guy. And now that I think about it, I don't think it was a different guy. I think it was the same young brother. He made some comments suggesting that being rejected and being played is virtually the same thing. No, they're not. 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 There's a difference between being rejected and being played. The simple difference is this. Genuine flat-out rejection is when as soon as you let a woman know that you're interested in sharing her company in a romantic or a strictly sexual manner, she lets you know quickly and straightforwardly that she's not interested. That's rejection. Getting played is what a manipulative time waster does. Getting played is what a manipulative time waster does to men. Here's the definition of getting played. Getting played is when a woman motivates you and provokes you to invest a significant amount of time in pursuit of her sexual companionship, and or motivates you and provokes you to invest a significant amount of money in pursuit of her sexual companionship, and then later on, days later, weeks later, months later, she rejects you. That's getting played. That's getting played. Getting played is when you've invested some degree of time, some degree of money, some degree of energy and effort, and some degree of emotion into pursuing a woman's romantic or strictly sexual companionship, only to be rejected later on. That's getting played. Getting played is not the same thing as being rejected. Like, you take me, for example. I've said this multiple times. I don't have a problem with getting rejected, particularly for casual sex. For casual sex, I don't have a problem being rejected. I've never lost sleep over being rejected by a woman. But I've become incredibly angry in the few instances that I allowed a woman to play me. I hate being played. I can handle rejection. I hate being played. That's 90 to 99% of the reason why I'm mode 1 with women. See, mode 1, when you use it the way it's supposed to be used, you'll never get played. You'll get rejected, but you won't get played. I ain't never get played when I've been mode 1, ever. I said that 2 videos ago. I can't name one time when I was mode 1 with a woman and my objective was short-term non-monogamous casual sex that a woman was able to play me. Reject me? Yes. Play me? No. Never got played. Never gotten played by one. So anyway, without going a long digression, yeah, there's a big difference between being rejected and being played. And again, this young brother, he was almost offering commentary that was suggesting those two were either exactly the same or very close to each other. No, they're not. No, they're not. Being rejected and being played are not the same thing, man. But to me, being played by a woman is 5 to 10 times worse than just flat out being rejected by a woman. Again, the biggest difference between the two, when you got played by a woman, that means you invested some degree of time, your non-sexual time, attention, and companionship. You invested some degree of money. You spent money on the woman. You invested some degree of energy and effort, and you invested some degree of emotions into that woman, only to not end up getting the pussy. That's getting played. Well, that's getting played for a man. Let's say getting played for a woman is a little different. Yeah, I talk about that in my book, one of my most underrated books called Upfront and Straightforward, Let the Manipulative Game Players Know What You're Really Thinking. Getting played for a woman is different. Here's the number one version of getting played by a woman. When a woman gets played by a man, it's usually she gave up the pussy to a man thinking it was going to lead to a long-term relationship or marriage, only to have the guy just dump her. That brings me to another young brother. I was listening to Bernard Ryan, I think just yesterday. And there was a brother on there, I ain't going to say his name just yet, but I've heard a few guys make the mistake. Now, if you're familiar with Ramil Amir, I have love and respect for Ramil Amir. Ramil Amir actually is the brother who did a video live stream calling me the GOAT of all dating coaches. Not of all black dating coaches, but of all dating coaches, period. He called me the GOAT. So I got a lot of love and respect for him. But he knows himself. Me and him have had a lot of what I would call respectful philosophical disagreements on dealing with women. Me and Ramil have had a lot of respectful and philosophical disagreements on dealing with women. And anyway, Ramil is known for his promotion of pump and dump. The pump and dump philosophy. Pump and dump is basically the modern day evolution of, when I was young, what was known as hit it and quit it. Hit it and quit it. Yeah, when I was in like college and in my 20s, most guys, in the same way a lot of young guys now use pump and dump, we used to say hit it and quit it. Hit and quit it and pump and dump are essentially the same thing. But here's what if you remember, I did a video last year where I said that I don't promote pump and dump. I don't promote pump and dump. Because what provoked it last year was some of Ramil's followers last year was saying, well, Alan, they were saying comments to the effect of, well, Alan, even your Mon 1 philosophy of dealing with women is for the most part representative of pumping and dumping. And I said, no, it's not. I did a video. And Ramil himself, after he listened to my video last year, he even said, I remember he wrote me, he said, okay. He said, your counterpoints were fair and objective. He said, you had some fair and objective counterpoints. Anyway, recently, just yesterday, on Bernard Riley's live stream, they got on a subject briefly about pump and dump. And his brother said, I don't know why y'all be acting like pump and dumping is all, questionable or unethical. He said, anytime you engage in casual sex, you're pumping and dumping a woman. He said, anytime you engage in casual sex, you're pumping and dumping a woman. That's not true. And I did a super chat to Bernard on his live stream to clarify that. That is not true. I don't want this to be a long digression because that's not the main point of this video. But I do want to point out that's not true. Only when you score casual sex for women using mode 2 or mode 3 can you be accused of pumping and dumping a woman. When you're mode 1, there's no such thing as pump and dump. And again, I covered this in the video last year, but I'll briefly touch on it again. What's the difference? What's the difference? Here's a simple difference. The main difference has to do with the word dump. Dump. See, to dump someone, whether it's a man dumping a woman or a woman dumping a man, to dump someone means to abruptly, prematurely, or unexpectedly end a romantic or strictly sexual relationship with someone. That's what it means to dump someone. See, I'm pedantic. One of my nicknames over the years has been Mr. Pedantic. Pedantic means I'm real nitpicky on how people use and define terms. To dump someone, if you're going to go with the pedantic definition of dumping, to dump someone means to end a romantic or strictly sexual relationship in a manner that's abrupt, premature, or unexpected. Abrupt, premature, or in other words, to put it another way, the only time you can be guilty of dumping a woman is if you give her the impression that you were planning on engaging in a lengthy, indefinite relationship with that woman, and then all of a sudden, without warning, you tell her that you're not interested in interacting with her anymore. Or even worse, you just go ghost on her. That's dumping a woman. So if you meet Michelle and you give Michelle the impression that you're open to being her next long-term boyfriend, and she buys into that impression you're giving her, that disingenuous and misleading impression you're giving her, then all of a sudden, say 3 weeks into your sexual relationship with her, you just all of a sudden don't call her no more, don't write her no more, don't text her no more. You go ghost on her. See, that's pump and dumping her. That would be an example of true pump and dump. You just left her hanging. See, I don't do that with women, man. Never have. Never have. Never, ever, 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 ever. I've never pumped and dumped a woman that I've had casual sex with. Ever. I've never pumped and dumped a woman that I had casual sex with. When I have casual sex with women, I let them know from the get-go that I'm going to stop dealing with them at some point in the near future. Sometimes I even go as far as to give them a specific time frame. There's been a percentage of women that I've actually gone as far as to give them, like I might say to the woman, hey, I'm only going to fuck you for the next 2 or 3 weeks and then I'm going to leave you alone. I've literally said that to women. I'll say, hey, I'm going to fuck you for like the next 2 or 3 weeks, then I'm going to leave you alone. Or I'm going to fuck you this weekend and then you're going to never hear from me again. I've told many women that, particularly when I was younger. I used to tell women that I would say, I'm going to fuck you for the next 3 or 4 days. Like, say it was a Thursday, I would tell a woman, I'm going to fuck you between Thursday, today, and Sunday, then you ain't going to never hear from me again. I'm a hardcore motherfucker, man. I don't be playing. I don't be bullshitting women to get them in bed. I tell women straight up, man. And even the women I didn't give a specific time frame, I've always told women that I engage in casual sex with that at some point in the near future, I'm just going to leave you alone. We're not going to see. I tell them straight up, I say, you have a 0% chance of becoming my next long-term girlfriend. You have a 0% chance of becoming my future wife. I've told women that. I'm a hardcore motherfucker, man, like that. Here's my thing, man. I'm not into getting women in bed by having to resort to lying to them, misleading them, or emotionally manipulating them. Period. I'm what I like to call an ethical womanizer. Basically, there's generally 2 types of womanizers. There's honest and ethical womanizers, and then there's dishonest, manipulative, and unethical womanizers. Those are the 2 general types of womanizers you have. It's honest and ethical womanizers. That's the only womanizer that I call a player. I've done a couple of videos on that. The only womanizers I refer to as players or true players is guys who are honest and non-manipulative. If you're a dishonest, misleading, or manipulative type womanizer, you ain't a player to me. I would never give you the title of player. You ain't no player. You ain't no player. You a coward. Give me your number, I'll tell you directly. Give me your number, I'll tell you directly. We can get on Skype today. You want me to talk shit to you. If you're a liar, if your way of getting pussy is by lying to women, manipulating women, I have no respect for you. And I'll tell you that directly. Because you're a coward. You're a verbal coward. You ain't got no balls. You ain't got no balls like me. You ain't got no backbone like me. You are not on my level when it comes to balls and backbone. Nowhere near. Can't fuck with me. Read chapter 5 of No Free Attention. I go in on guys who are liars, manipulators, and date rapists. There's at least 3 guys I go in on in chapter 5 of No Free Attention, which, hey, yesterday on this quick side note, No Free Attention rose to as high as, I think, number 15 in the top 100 in this category yesterday. Category, I think, gender studies. Yep, it was as high as number 15. Yeah, I had a guy recently post a review of my No Free Attention book on Amazon. He called it the best dating advice book he's ever read. That's a strong statement. He said it's the best dating advice book he's ever read. I've had quite a few guys actually, believe it or not, say that. I've had at minimum at least 2 or 3 dozen guys who have written me and ranked No Free Attention as either the best dating advice book they've read, or at minimum, they ranked it in their top 3. They either ranked it as the best, or at minimum, they ranked it in their top 3 best dating advice books they've ever read. No Free Attention, which is, of course, a rewrite of The Possibility of Sex. But yeah, in chapter 5 of that book, man, that's the chapter that I go in on guys who are liars, disingenuous and misleading manipulators, and rapists and date rapists. Yeah, man, I don't believe in that emotional manipulation shit. Oh, speaking of that, on another note, I'm responding to different things guys have said. I heard a guy on a live stream. This wasn't in the last 2 or 3 days. It's been a while, actually, now. I think it's been at least 2 or 3 weeks since this happened. But a guy, I can't remember if I pointed this out. I might have pointed this out already on a previous video. If I did, please excuse me. But there was a guy who said, in respect to me talking about my lack of respect for men who mislead and manipulate women, he said, see, that's the problem I have with Alan Roger Currie, man. Sometimes he comes across as a male feminist. He's always scolding and admonishing men for misleading and manipulating women, but you don't ever hear him do the same thing with women who mislead and manipulate men. Insert dog face here. See, I'm just going to say it as bluntly as I can, man. Some motherfuckers in the Manosphere should just stop talking because they so goddamn stupid. They so stupid. They stupid. They need to go to just a stupidity camp. They stupid. Y'all know me, man. Man, one of the things that gets me triggered, so I've heard some people say Alan gets triggered easily. I admit it, man. If there's at least one thing that gets me triggered very quickly and very easily, people's stupidity. Seriously, that's one type of guy I'll openly admit that triggers me, man. When guys are just stupid, I get triggered, man. This guy actually said that that all I do is scold and admonish men who are guilty of misleading and manipulating women, but I rarely have ever scold and admonish women. Possibility of sex, anybody? Possibility of sex, that's what that whole fucking book is about. What the fuck are you talking about? That's the whole reason I wrote my book, The Possibility of Sex. That's all that book centers on, is criticizing women who mislead and manipulate men, women who exploit and manipulate men for their non-sexual time, attention, and companionship, and women who exploit men for their material possessions and financial resources. That's all that book is about. And you can say similarly, my most recent book, No Free Attention. Possibility of Sex and No Free Attention are my two books that go in on women who are manipulative with men. But see, some stupid man don't pay attention to that shit. I ain't never been one-sided when it comes to criticizing manipulative head games. I'll pay you $1,000 a day if you can prove that I ever been one-sided. I'm against manipulative head game. I'm against dishonesty and disingenuous and misleading manipulators on both sides of the gender coin. I have no respect for men who are dishonest and misleading and manipulative with women. I have no respect for women who are dishonest, misleading, and manipulative with men. Members of both genders who engage in manipulative head games, I have this much respect for you, which is almost zero. I don't respect nobody who's a liar and a manipulative game player. Y'all the reason why we got all these problems. Y'all the reason why the whole that's at least half the reason why the dating scene is fucked up, because all you liars and manipulative game players. And then each of y'all want to go on podcasts and live streams and bitch about the opposite gender when y'all the one playing games. I don't play no games. I don't play games with women, and because I'm on one, I don't allow games to be played with me. Drops mic. Boom. Motherfuckers, I don't ever come at the king. Because you damn sure gonna miss. You manipulative motherfuckers, because y'all verbal cowards. Guys saying stupid shit like, well, women want, a lot of women, they want men to lie to them and manipulate. Shut the fuck up. What, name a woman by name that's come out publicly and said, I want man to toy with my emotions. Name a woman, don't say some woman I know in the neighborhood. Say it, give her name. First and last name or STFU. Or STFU. Give me a name of a woman who has said, acknowledged publicly, whenever I deal with a man, I want him to blatantly lie to me. I want him to mislead me about his true desires, interests, and intentions, and I want him to toy with my emotions and emotionally manipulate me. Name me one woman by name that has ever said that, or STFU. Name one woman. Because for me personally, I've never met a woman in my fucking life that has ever said to me, you know what, Alan, I don't like men being honest with me. I like men to lie to me, mislead me, and toy with my emotions. I like men to do that. Now, I will say this, and I said this on a recent video in the last few weeks. The closest I've heard some women come close to acknowledging that they like a guy, they didn't go as far as say they want a man to lie to them. I don't know about going that far, but I did mention on a video 2 or 3 weeks ago, when I used to post on this website called AskMan.com, there were 3 women who, when it came to the subject of alcohol, specific subject of alcohol, there were 3 women on that message board that told me, they said, Alan, if I'm engaged in casual sex, I would prefer to be drunk first. So they didn't say they wanted to be lied to. They didn't say they wanted a man to toy with their emotions. But the one thing they did admit and acknowledge, it was 3 women on AskMan.com. They said, Alan, when it comes to engaging in casual sex, I would prefer for a man to get me drunk first. And when I asked them why, what do you think they said? They mentioned plausible deniability. Matter of fact, on a quick side note, a guy on Twitter, he talked about that article I wrote on O'Shea Duke Jackson's website, the Negro Manosphere, about plausible deniability. He said that was one of the best articles he's ever read to do with that subject. But yeah, these 3 women admitted. They basically said, this is what each woman, their words were slightly different between the 3 of them, but essentially this is what they all 3 said. They said, this is why I would want to be drunk when I have casual sex with a man. They said, if a guy gets me drunk and I have casual sex with him, and he doesn't do anything, he doesn't kiss and tell about our sexual experience, and number 2, he doesn't make any attempt to slander my name, such as, call me a whore or a slut, then the women were like, then I'll just move on to the next guy and let it go. But they said if that man does a bunch of kissing and telling, the guy who fucked me after getting me drunk, does a bunch of kissing and telling and tries to slander my name, they said, I'm gonna accuse him of date rape. They said, I'm gonna accuse him of date rape without hesitation. They basically said that. They said, I'm gonna accuse him of date rape. And some of you guys don't take that serious. Again, that's why I say, man, that's why you got the Me Too movement, man. That's why you got the Me Too movement. One of the number one things that sets you up for an easy charge, even a false or invalid charge of date rape, is if you put drugs into a woman's system or alcohol into a woman's system and then fuck them for the first time. You asking for a date rape charge. You asking for it. And you ain't gonna get much empathy and sympathy from me. You're not. I would say for me, that's right behind lying to women and toying with their emotions, giving women drugs and alcohol before you fuck a woman for the now. If it's your 3rd, 4th, 5th time fucking a woman, I give you a pass. But if you ain't fucked a woman for the first time yet, I always tell my clients, man, never fuck a woman for the first time, the very first time, if she got drugs or alcohol in her system. I never fuck a woman for the first time if she got drugs or alcohol in her system. That's the easy date rape charge, man. That's an easy, man. You making it easy for a woman to falsely accuse you. And again, these three women on Or Ask Man admitted that. They said, if a guy gets me drunk and we have casual sex, and then a few weeks later, he ends up attempting to slander my name, basically slut shame me, they said, I'm going to accuse him of date rape. I'm going to accuse him of date rape. I'm going to say that guy date raped me. I did not give him verbal consent, and he date raped me. They flat out said it without hesitation. That's why I don't like giving women plausible deniability. So anyway, my point was, all these guys will say, well, let me ask you as a man, do you want a woman exploiting you for your time and money without giving you no pussy? Is that what you want? Huh? I want to hear you say it if that's what you want. Since you say that's what women want, they want to be lied to and manipulated. You want to be lied to and manipulated? You want women to cause you to waste time and money without getting no pussy from them? Is that what you want? Be man enough to say it. Would you take pride in that shit? Oh, you men out here on YouTube bitching about women who've exploited you for your non-sexual time, attention, and companionship, exploited you for your financial resources and material possessions? Is that what you want? Then why the fuck you think women want it? Shut that noise up with your stupid ass. Give me your number, I'll tell you directly. Stupid motherfucker. You stupid. Saying all this stupid shit, man. Stupid shit. Just stupid. Now, see, I spent almost this whole video talking about everything other than the main thing I wanted to talk about. It started with me talking about, I had about 4 or 5 guys that tried to give me some pushback when I said that the main guys who have contributed to the formation of the Me Too movement is Mode 2 guys and Mode 3 guys. Now, all these guys agree with Mode 3, which, in case you forgot what Mode 3 is, Mode 3, an example of Mode 3 would be if you just blatantly lie to a woman. Like you met a woman named Lisa, and you knew deep down you just wanted to have casual sex with Lisa, but instead you lied to her and told her that you had an interest in being her next long-term boyfriend or even possibly her future husband, and you told her you were definitely interested in being in a long-term, emotionally profound, strictly monogamous relationship with her. But then after you fucked her 3 times, 5 times, 10 times, 20 times, you just dumped her. See, that would be the true definition of pump and dump. That's pump and dumping a woman. Going back to the whole pump and dump thing, that would be the genuine definition of pumping and dumping a woman. You lying to a woman, giving her the blatantly misleading impression that you're open to being her next long-term boyfriend or possibly her future husband, and that you're definitely interested in being in a long-term, emotionally profound, strictly monogamous relationship with her. But then just after you fuck her 3 times, 5 times, 10 times, 15 times, 20 times, you just all of a sudden just in a relationship or go ghost on her. That's pumping and dumping. That's the most blatant form of pumping and dumping. That's Mode 3. I didn't get any pushback on Mode 3. What I get some pushback on was Mode 2. What is Mode 2? Mode 2 is when you don't go on the positive end, you don't go as far as to just flat out lie to a woman and tell her specifically that you want to be her next long-term boyfriend or a future husband. You don't go that far. But on the negative end, you don't make it specifically clear to the woman that all you want from her is just a few episodes of casual sex either. So the negative side of Mode 2, the main thing you are when you're Mode 2 is you're a combination of cautious, beat around the bush, and vague and ambiguous. Cautious, beat around the bush, and vague and ambiguous. In other words, again, you don't go as far as to lie to a woman and tell her that you want to be in a long-term, emotionally profound, strictly monogamous relationship with her. But by the same token, you don't have the balls and backbone to straight up tell her that all you're looking for is just a few episodes of casual sex. Y'all should know who the #1 Me Too celebrity that fell under the category of Mode 2, and he still was the victim of Me Too allegations more than anybody else. And I've done 2 or 3 videos about it. Aziz Ansari. Aziz Ansari. Aziz Ansari is the number one guy who was guilty of being mold 2. Of all the celebrities that I can think of off the top of my head, he's the number one well-known celebrity that experienced some Me Too allegations as a result of being mold 2 as opposed to mold 3. Yeah. Here to give you the recap on what Aziz was guilty of. Now, in his defense, I always point out, in his defense, the woman who criticized him, she pointed out, she said he did not date rape her, or date rape her, or sexually assault her. So he was not guilty of anything illegal. But here's what he did. They met at some award show like the Emmy Awards. He met this woman who was basically a groupie of his. Then he invited her out to dinner, and she said on the dinner date, which he was, of course, guilty of doing, whining and dining, taking her out on the dinner date. He wined and dined her. She said while they were on a dinner date, he made no mention of sex. She said he was like the perfect, well-mannered gentleman while they were on the dinner date. Then after the dinner date was over, he invited her over to his apartment or condominium, whatever. And then she said within 5 minutes after she came to his apartment, condominium, place of residence, he started aggressively making sexual moves on her. Now, she admitted she gave in to some of his sexual advances, particularly the oral sex advance. She admitted that she sucked his dick. Matter of fact, twice. She sucked his dick twice. She refused his intercourse, his advances for intercourse. She rejected those, but she gave in to his oral sex advances. But she ended up criticizing him, saying that, if nothing else, that he was duplicitous. You know, I always talk about sexual duplicity. She said he was duplicitous. She said on the dinner date, she said basically the guy that he presented himself to be on the dinner date was 180 degrees different from the behavior he exhibited once he got to his place of residence. And she wasn't feeling it. And she publicly called him out on it in an article which tainted his career for at least a year. He didn't go to jail or anything, but it tainted his career, particularly among his female followers and supporters. A lot of his female fans, followers, and supporters turned on him. Because Aziz was kind of known as a celebrity male feminist before that incident happened. He was known as a champion for feminists. So you want to talk about a guy who was Mold 2. There's a few other guys. I don't have the time to go into them. But the number one guy who was Mold 2 that still experienced Me Too allegations and criticisms was Aziz Ansari. He was Mold 2. He wasn't Mold 3. He was Mold 2, man. I always say, man, name one guy that was Mold 1. A guy that just boldly, confidently, straightforwardly let a woman know he wanted to engage in a few episodes of casual sex that has some major Me Too allegations thrown his way. The only guy people tend to throw my way is this comedian named Louis C.K. I've heard a few guys else say, well, Louis C.K., he was more or less Mold 1 because he told the women he wanted to masturbate in front of them, and they said, yeah, but then when he did it, they changed their mind and had a negative reaction. No, that's not the full story. I'm tired of y'all bringing it. Whenever I say, who is a celebrity that was Mold 1 and still got Me Too criticisms or Me Too allegations, the number one guy everybody brings up is Louis C.K. Well, I'm here to tell you, and I'm going to include the link to the article in my comment section that explains it. Louis C.K. did not just ask some women, can he masturbate in front of them? And then they said, yeah, and then once he did it, they changed their mind and had a negative reaction. No, I read the full story. He blocked the door. He blocked the door. See, that's what y'all always leave out. He blocked the door. It was a situation that happened at what's called the Aspen Comedy Festival, I think in 2012. 2012 Aspen Comedy Festival. He was with two comedians that were kind of proteges of his. And he did ask him, he said, I want to masturbate in front of you ladies. I want to jerk off in front of you women. Are you cool with that? And the two women said they jokingly, keyword jokingly, said, yeah, go ahead. And they gave him a thumbs up. But they said that they thought he was joking. Then he actually pulled out his dick and started jacking off. And they said, okay, please stop. We don't want to see this. And he kept going. Then they said, okay, if you're going to continue to do this, we're going to leave. And then when they got ready to leave, he blocked the door with his body. That ain't Mode 1, man. That ain't Mode 1. In other words, he was basically trying to force them to watch him jerk off. That ain't Mode 1. So I'm tired of you guys saying, well, Louis C.K. was Mode 1 and he still got in trouble. That motherfucker wasn't Mode 1. And he got some other dirt in his house related to his behavior with women. The motherfucker ain't Mode 1. Don't ever call Louis C.K. Mode 1. Don't ever call Louis C.K. Mode 1. I have yet to identify a celebrity, entertainment industry celebrity, famous professional athlete, well-known politician, who the only thing he was guilty of was letting a woman know in an honest, upfront, straightforward manner that he wanted to engage in one or more episodes of short-term, non-monogamous, casual sex with a woman, and then she turned around and threw Me Too allegations his way. Name somebody. If I'm wrong, name somebody. All the guys who've been accused of Me Too were guys who either lied to women, misled women, and emotionally manipulated them. Guys who attempted to offer women employment or job promotions in exchange for their sexual companionship. Or guys who use drugs, alcohol, or physical force on women in an attempt to have sex with them. One of those three. Mode 1 don't lead to that type of Me Too drama. And that's why I promote it. Always have and always will.
Yes, sir.
Say it again.
Yes, sir.
Who's the king?
Alan, you're the king.
Say it again.
Alan, you're the king. You're dominating me.
Say it again.
Alan, you're dominating me right now. Mode 1.
Mode 1.
Daddy, can I go, please? You're the king.
Say it again.
Oh, you're the fucking king. Yes. Yes. Yes.
You're the king, Alan.
AKA the king of verbal seduction. You know, it's the tone of your voice, how seductive your intonations are, the vibrations that you could just reach out over the phone lines and stroke a woman's breast just by the sound of your voice, how you could make her pussy so wet just by the sound of your voice. That's actually very hot.
So you said my show was what?
I said your show is powerful.
Oh, say it again.
Your show is powerful.
I bet the king would fuck me really good.
Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie. The king.
The king.
The king.
I have to agree with you on the communication piece, because I actually did take a session with Alan Roger Currie, and he gave me a line that I did not think was going to work, and it worked. And I was like, what the fuck?
Oh my God! Man, he's the master. He's the master of the verbal seduction. He got that communication piece down pat.
It really worked. Yeah. It just simply worked, and I just didn't think it was going to work at all.
Some guys have natural handles. Some guys have a better natural shot, but you can always improve your shot. And sex is damn sure something you can fucking learn. Look, dude, you want to learn how to talk better? I'm hiring Alan Roger Currie to get my dirty talk game on, because it's always been something I want to get better at.
Verbal seduction, man. I'm like, clearly, this guy's the Michael Jordan of seduction. Like, come on now.